Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the hushed, incense-laced halls of ancient imperial China, a place of immense power, profound philosophy, and perhaps unexpectedly, some rather slow but incredibly wise guardians. Forget your stern librarians, your security cameras, or even fierce dragons. We're going to discover why one of the world's greatest repositories of knowledge, the Chinese Imperial Library, was entrusted to the quiet, ancient vigilance of turtles. Imagine walking into a grand hall filled with priceless scrolls and realizing your best defense against chaos is a large, stone reptile. You probably wouldn't trust your rare book collection to a tortoise, but for the Chinese emperors it made perfect cosmic sense. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're feeling chatty, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you all are tuning in from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand before the imposing gates of the Chinese Imperial Library. Vast, complex within the Forbidden City, or a grand palace of an earlier dynasty. This isn't just a collection of books. It is the very brain of the empire, the accumulated wisdom of millennia, meticulously organized on countless wooden shelves and in lacquered cabinets. Every scroll, every bound volume, represents centuries of philosophy, history, poetry, science, and governance. This imperial library's core role was nothing less than the preservation and dissemination of knowledge, essential for the continuity and legitimacy of the emperor's rule. It was the ancient world's ultimate data center, but instead of servers, it housed delicate bamboo slips and papyrus-like scrolls. For an empire that measured its existence in dynasties and its wisdom in the teachings of sages, the preservation of texts was a sacred duty. The library served multiple functions: a research hub for scholars preparing official histories or drafting decrees, a training ground for future bureaucrats who studied classical texts, and a symbolic repository of the empire's cultural and intellectual heritage. This was the ultimate memory bank for a civilization obsessed with continuity and ancestor veneration. Imagine trying to run a country when all your historical records are locked away. But the lock is a spiritual concept, a mainstream historical fact. Throughout Chinese history, various imperial dynasties established and maintained grand libraries, such as the Imperial Library of the Tang Dynasty, or the Wenyuanzhi Library during the Ming and Qing dynasties. These institutions were not just passive storage. They actively engaged in copying, editing, and compiling vast encyclopedias, reflecting the state's deep commitment to scholarship and knowledge management. They weren't just keeping books. They were creating knowledge. The sheer volume of material within these libraries was staggering. Think of the millions of characters inscribed on thousands upon thousands of bamboo, silk, and paper scrolls. Protecting this irreplaceable treasure from natural disasters like fire and flood, or from human threats like theft, rebellion, or simply neglect, was a paramount concern for every emperor. This wasn't just about losing a few books. It was about potentially losing the very blueprint of the empire's wisdom, its historical narrative, and its guiding principles. A quirky tidbit. Imagine the pressure on the imperial librarians. Not only were they guardians of texts, but perhaps also seen as guardians of the empire's very soul. One misplaced scroll, one unnoticed insect infestation, and they might be held responsible for an ill-fated imperial decree a decade later. Talk about job stress. They probably developed a very particular kind of patience, suitable for handling delicate ancient scrolls, and as we'll discover, very patient, unblinking guardians. Historians still argue whether the emphasis on centralized imperial libraries primarily served to consolidate political power by controlling information, or if it genuinely reflected a deep cultural reverence for knowledge and learning. Was it about controlling the narrative or preserving the truth? It was likely a blend of both, as is often the case with imperial institutions. Regardless, the vast and valuable contents of the Chinese Imperial Library demanded the most profound protection, leading the emperors to turn to guardians that embodied the very essence of enduring wisdom, the mighty, unassuming turtle. The choice of the turtle as a guardian for the Imperial Library wasn't arbitrary. It stemmed from the very bedrock of ancient Chinese cosmology for millennia. The turtle or tortoise held a profoundly sacred and symbolic place in Chinese philosophical and spiritual thought, far beyond a simple reptile. It was a creature connected to the very foundations of the universe, embodying principles essential for the library's survival and the empire's stability. Imagine the ancient Chinese worldview, a cosmos where everything is interconnected, governed by natural laws and cosmic forces. The turtle, with its domed shell resembling the heavens and its flat underside representing the earth, is seen as a microcosm of the universe itself. Its slow, deliberate movements mirrored the unhurried, eternal cycles of nature. It was considered one of the four auspicious beasts, along with the dragon, phoenix, and kiln, often associated with the element of water and the north direction. A mainstream historical fact: the earliest forms of Chinese writing, oracle bone script, were often inscribed on turtle plastrons, the underside of the shell, or ox scapulae. These dragon bones were used for divination, providing direct communication with ancestors and deities. This ancient practice cemented the turtle's association with wisdom, prophecy, and access to profound hidden knowledge, making it a natural guardian vortex holding the empire's accumulated wisdom. The turtle's remarkable longevity was another key aspect of its cosmic significance. Living for hundreds of years, it symbolized endurance, stability, and immortality. For an empire obsessed with dynastic continuity and the eternal legacy of its rulers, a creature embodying such qualities was an ideal protector for its most precious and enduring treasures. Its written records, what better guardian for knowledge? Meant to last forever than a creature that seems to live forever? Its association with water and the earth also linked it to fundamental principles. Water symbolized wisdom, flexibility, and sustenance. Earth represented stability, foundation, and nourishment. The turtle, residing in both elements, bridged the terrestrial and aquatic realms, embodying balance and foundational strength. All these cosmic associations made the turtle not just a respected animal, but a living embodiment of the very qualities the Imperial Library sought to preserve: timeless knowledge, stability, and eternal wisdom. A quirky tidbit: imagine an Imperial librarian explaining the choice of turtle guardians to a bewildered foreign envoy. "You see, noble sir, our dragons guard the palace gates. Our phoenixes bless the empress. But for the true heart of our empire's knowledge, we need something ... slower. Something that literally carries the world on its back, like a scholar carries wisdom." It highlights the unique Chinese philosophical depth applied to practical matters. Historians still argue whether the reverence for the turtle initially stemmed from its practical use in divination oracle bones, or if its natural characteristics, longevity, shell shape, inherently led to its cosmic symbolism. Did practice inform belief, or belief inform practice? It was likely a symbiotic relationship, where practical application deepened spiritual understanding. Regardless, the profound cosmic significance of the turtle made it the most logical, powerful, and utterly fitting guardian for the irreplaceable treasures of the Chinese Imperial Library, embodying the wisdom, longevity, and stability that every dynasty yearned for, building upon its deep cosmic significance. The turtle embodied several specific auspicious symbols: longevity and wisdom, which made it an ideal multifaceted guardian for the Chinese Imperial Library. These weren't just abstract ideas. They were tangible qualities that the emperors desperately sought to instill and protect within their vast repository of knowledge. Imagine, it's the aspirations of an emperor: a reign that lasts forever, a lineage that never breaks, and wisdom so profound it guides the empire through all ages. The turtle, with its legendary lifespan, often believed to stretch for hundreds or even thousands of years, was the perfect embodiment of longevity. Placing turtle statues at the library's entrance or within its grounds was a powerful symbolic act, a visual prayer that the knowledge contained within would endure for eternity. mirroring the turtle's own seemingly unending existence. What better way to secure the immortality of texts than by entrusting them to a symbol of immortality beyond mere years? The turtle's slow, deliberate movements and its ancient appearance were associated with profound wisdom. It moved with a thoughtful pace, seemingly unhurried by the fleeting concerns of the world, suggesting a deep, contemplative understanding of cosmic truths. Its wrinkled skin and ancient eyes seemed to hold the secrets of ages. For a library that housed the accumulated wisdom of sages, philosophers, and historians, the turtle was a potent symbol of the intellectual depth and sagacity contained within its walls. A mainstream historical fact, stone stelae tablets, bearing imperial decrees or important historical records, were often placed on the backs of giant stone turtles known as bixi or gwifu at temple or palace entrances. These bixi symbolized the immense weight and longevity of the recorded history and imperial pronouncements, suggesting that the very foundation of the empire's laws and knowledge rested on the enduring strength and wisdom of the turtle. This practice directly extended to the guardianship of libraries. The turtle's shell, its intricate patterns, was also seen as a representation of patterns in the universe, contributing to its image of profound understanding. It was a living, breathing diagram of cosmic order. This further solidified its connection to the organized knowledge and intellectual pursuits housed in the library. A quirky tidbit: imagine a new imperial librarian, perhaps initially skeptical, being patiently taught by an elder about the symbolism of the turtle guardians. See, young master, a speedy dragon might guard the outer gates from barbarian invaders, but only the turtle, with its ancient patience, can truly protect against the greatest enemy of knowledge, the fleeting nature of time itself. It's a charming mental image of the philosophical depth behind practical choices. Historians still argue whether the symbolic power of these turtle guardians was universally understood and believed by all levels of society, or if it was primarily a concept propagated by the imperial elite and scholar class. Did the common citizen truly feel safer knowing turtles guarded the library? Or was it simply seen as another grand imperial display? It was likely a layered understanding, with the elite appreciating the deep cosmological connections, while commoners simply respected the auspicious symbols. Regardless, the enduring symbols of longevity and wisdom embodied by the turtle made it an unparalleled and perfectly Chinese choice for guarding the precious, timeless treasures of the Imperial Library. The reverence for the turtle wasn't confined to abstract symbolism. It found tangible expression in the very structure of the Imperial Library. Through architectural integration, stone guardians. These weren't just decorative elements, were massive, imposing stone statues, strategically placed to imbue the library with their protective qualities, physically manifesting the auspicious symbolism. Imagine approaching the grand entrance of the Imperial Library. Your gaze would immediately fall upon colossal stone turtles, often several meters long, with meticulously carved details, their ancient eyes seeming to stare into eternity. These were typically bixi statues already, famed for supporting heavy steles inscribed with imperial decrees, making them natural choices for supporting the weight of knowledge. Their sheer size and solid construction communicated strength, stability, and permanence. A mainstream historical fact: the practice of placing bixi turtle-based steles at significant imperial sites, including tombs, temples, and government offices, dates back centuries in China. These massive stone turtles often carried heavy stone tablets on their backs, inscribed with important historical records or imperial edicts, signifying the longevity and stability of the empire's written word. Their presence at the Imperial Library extended this established tradition of guardianship over essential texts. These stone guardians would often be positioned prominently at the main entrances to the library complex, or sometimes within key courtyards, facing important directions. Their strategic placement was not just about aesthetics, it was about activating their protective powers. Facing north, the direction often associated with the turtle in Chinese cosmology. They were thought to ward off ill influences and bring stability, the craftsmanship involved in carving these immense stone turtles was remarkable. Sculptors would spend years meticulously shaping the hard stone, ensuring every scale, every wrinkle, and every line conveyed the desired sense of ancient wisdom and enduring strength. Their presence was a powerful visual statement. The empires. Knowledge was rooted in profound stability, protected by ancient forces. A quirky tidbit. Imagine sheer logistical challenge of moving and positioning these multi-ton stone turtles centuries ago, without modern cranes. It would have involved armies of laborers, intricate pulley systems, and immense patience. The fact that emperors went to such lengths to place these guardians underscores their deep belief in the turtle's symbolic power. Yes, we need a crane. For this job, a very big one. No, even bigger. This turtle needs to protect all the ancient poetry. Historians still argue whether the primary function of these stone turtle guardians was purely symbolic and ritualistic, or if they were also seen as having a more literal, albeit mystical, protective role against physical threats like fire and flood. Was it belief alone, or a belief system reinforced by practical observation? It was likely a blend where the profound cultural symbolism was integrated into the physical architecture, making the Imperial Library not just a building, but a fortified shrine to knowledge, protected by its timeless, stony guardians, beyond the grand symbolism and architectural presence. The turtle's role as a guardian extended to specific practical fears: protection against fire. In ancient China, where libraries were vast repositories of highly flammable materials like paper, silk, and wood, fire was the ultimate nemesis. The turtle, with its strong association with water, was believed to possess a potent, almost magical, ability to ward off this destructive element. Imagine the terror of a library fire in the ancient world. Centuries of accumulated knowledge, entire dynasties' records, philosophical treatises, and irreplaceable literary works could be reduced to ashes in a single blaze. For emperors, who saw knowledge as the bedrock of their legitimacy and continuity, such a catastrophe was not merely an economic loss, but a spiritual and existential threat to the empire itself. Therefore, every possible measure, both practical and symbolic, was employed to prevent it. A mainstream historical fact, throughout Chinese history, imperial libraries suffered devastating fires, often due to accidental causes like lamps or heating braziers, or during periods of warfare and rebellion. These fires resulted in immense losses of invaluable historical and literary works, highlighting the constant vulnerability of paper-based archives. The very real threat of fire fueled the symbolic need for water-associated protectors. The turtle's deep connection to the element of water, as we discussed in its cosmological significance, extended to its perceived ability to control and manage water. It lived in water, moved gracefully through it, and yet provided a stable, immovable foundation. By associating the turtle with the library, it was believed that its auspicious presence would spiritually invoke the power of water, thus creating a protective, dampening aura that would ward off flames. They were a kind of ancient, mystical fire suppression system. Sometimes literal water features, like ponds or moats, would be incorporated around the library complex, reinforcing the water symbolism. The stone turtles might even be placed near these water bodies, drawing on their elemental power. It was a holistic approach to protection, blending physical engineering with profound spiritual belief. A quirky tidbit: imagine an imperial librarian, during a particularly dry season, anxiously touching a stone turtle guardian, almost as if hoping to feel its cool, damp energy emanating to protect the scrolls. They might even pour a small libation of water over the turtle's head as an offering, further invoking its protective powers against the ever-present threat of fire. Please, wise one, keep the fiery dragons of disaster far from our precious histories. Historians still argue whether the symbolic protection offered by the turtle guardians genuinely provided a psychological comfort that reinforced practical fire safety measures, or if it sometimes led to a false sense of security that downplayed the need for more mundane precautions. Did belief enhance practice, or sometimes hinder it? It was likely a nuanced interplay. Regardless, the turtle's powerful association with water made it an indispensable, albeit mystical, guardian against the constant, terrifying specter of fire that loomed over every valuable collection of scrolls in ancient China. If fire was a terrifying threat, then water, in its uncontrolled form, posed another existential danger to the Imperial Library. This leads us to the turtle's crucial role in protection against floods and water damage. Ironically, the very element that symbolized warding off fire also carried its own destructive potential, making the turtle's dual association with stability and water management incredibly valuable. Imagine a sudden torrential downpour or a seasonal river overflowing its banks near the capital. Water seeping into underground storage areas or rising up through poorly sealed foundations could be just as devastating to delicate paper and silk scrolls as fire. Mold, mildew, and decay would quickly set in, erasing centuries of knowledge just as surely as flames. For a civilization built on meticulous record-keeping, water damage was a silent, insidious enemy, a mainstream historical fact. Ancient Chinese imperial records detail numerous instances of libraries suffering from floods, dampness, and insect infestations which thrive in damp conditions, leading to significant losses of texts. Preserving texts in such conditions was a constant battle, and strategic placement of buildings, elevated floors, and careful storage practices were essential. The turtle's strong connection to the element of water, as we discussed in its cosmological significance, extended to its perceived ability to control and manage water. It lived in water, moved gracefully through it, and yet provided a stable, immovable foundation. By associating the turtle with the library, it was believed that its auspicious presence would spiritually ensure the correct flow of water, preventing destructive floods, regulating humidity, and maintaining a stable environment conducive to preservation. It was their ancient dehumidifier and flood barrier, wrapped in one shelled package. Sometimes, the turtle statues themselves would be placed near symbolic water features, or even within drainage systems, to literally embody their role in water management. Their solid, grounded forms symbolized stability against the unpredictable forces of nature. They were anchors for the imperial knowledge, preventing it from being swept away. A quirky tidbit: imagine an imperial librarian, during a particularly damp monsoon season, anxiously looking at a stone turtle guardian, perhaps even gently wiping away moisture from its shell, hoping its presence would absorb the humidity and protect the delicate scrolls. They might even whisper a small prayer to the turtle spirit, asking for its aid in keeping the library dry and mold-free. Please, Venerable. 1. Keep the damp demons at bay. Our histories depend on you. Historians still argue whether the symbolic association of the turtle with water management and stability was a spontaneous cultural belief, or if it developed from careful observation of turtles surviving floods and thriving in diverse aquatic environments. Did the natural world inspire the myth, or did the myth shape the interpretation of the natural world? It was likely a reinforcing cycle, where observed traits reinforced existing cosmological beliefs. Regardless, the turtle's profound connection to water made it an indispensable, albeit mystical, guardian against the insidious, silent threat of water damage that constantly loomed over the irreplaceable treasures of the Chinese Imperial Library. Beyond environmental threats, the Imperial Library faced human dangers. This brings us to the turtle's symbolic role in protection against theft and corruption. The vast knowledge contained within the library was not just a cultural treasure, it was also a source of immense power, making it a target for those who sought to exploit or subvert it. The turtle, embodying integrity and wisdom, is believed to guard against both external plunder and internal deceit. Imagine the value of an imperial library in an age before mass printing. Every copy of a classical text, every official record, every philosophical treatise was hand-copied, making it incredibly rare and precious. Such texts could be stolen for profit, for political advantage, or to suppress inconvenient truths. Furthermore, the very act of accessing and interpreting these texts could lead to corruption. scholars altering records, officials misinterpreting decrees, or knowledge being hoarded rather than served for the good of the empire. A mainstream historical fact. Throughout Chinese history, imperial libraries were vulnerable to theft by ambitious officials, destruction during civil unrest, and sometimes even deliberate suppression or alteration of texts by new dynasties seeking to rewrite history. The constant struggle to maintain the integrity and accessibility of imperial records was a defining challenge for every emperor. The turtle, with its hard, impenetrable shell, naturally symbolized security and protection against external forces. Its solid, grounded nature conveyed integrity and an unyielding resistance to external pressures. Placing these guardians at the library was a visual declaration. This knowledge is secure, not to be plundered by outsiders or easily corrupted. More subtly, the turtle's association with wisdom and rectitude, uprightness, extended to guarding against internal corruption, was believed that the turtle's presence would inspire honesty and ethical conduct among those who worked within the library. The scholars, scribes, and librarians, and their wisdom would guide those who accessed the texts to use knowledge for the greater good of the empire, rather than for personal gain or malicious intent. They were a moral compass in stone. A quirky tidbit. Imagine an imperial official, perhaps contemplating subtly altering a historical record to favor his family. Glancing nervously at a stone turtle guardian near the archive entrance, he'd imagine the turtle's ancient, wise eyes seeing through his deceit, perhaps even feeling a subtle sense of moral judgment emanating from the stone. It's a charming image of how deeply embedded symbolism could influence personal behavior, even in the absence of physical enforcement. The turtle knows what I did last summer. ... With that history scroll, historians still argue whether the symbolic role of these guardians was genuinely effective in preventing illicit activities, or if it primarily served as a cultural ideal, with practical security measures, guards, locks being the true deterrence. Was it a spiritual shield or a moral reminder? It was likely both, with the powerful symbolism reinforcing the strict human vigilance. Regardless, the turtle's multifaceted symbolism, extending to protection against both external theft and internal corruption, made it an unparalleled guardian for the priceless sacred knowledge that formed the very foundation of the Chinese Imperial Library and the empire it served. The presence of the turtle guardians wasn't just a passive symbol. It infused the very atmosphere and practices of the Imperial Library through ritual and ceremonies role. Their auspicious power was regularly acknowledged and invoked through specific rituals, ensuring the continuous spiritual protection of the invaluable texts and reinforcing the sacred nature of knowledge itself. Imagine an imperial librarian's daily routine, extending beyond mere organization and preservation, would likely include specific rituals performed before the stone turtle guardians. These might involve bowing, offering incense, or even making small libations of water, acknowledging the turtle's power and seeking its continued blessing for the library. Such acts would instill a profound sense of reverence and responsibility in all who entered the sacred space, a mainstream historical fact. Throughout Chinese history, imperial institutions, including libraries, were often associated with specific rituals and ceremonies designed to ensure their proper functioning, protection, and auspiciousness. These practices reinforced the cosmological beliefs tied to various symbols and deities, maintaining harmony between the human and cosmic realms. The turtle guardians would have been an integral part of these daily or seasonal rites. Important events, such as the acquisition of new rare texts, the completion of a major compilation project, or the start of a new imperial reign, might have been marked by grander ceremonies involving the turtle guardians. These rituals would publicly acknowledge the sacred nature of the knowledge and the protective role of the auspicious beasts. Drawing on collective belief to fortify the library's spiritual defenses, the very act of reading or writing within the library might have been approached with a heightened sense of decorum and respect. Influenced by the silent, watchful presence of the turtle guardians, their embodiment of wisdom would encourage scholarly humility and careful contemplation, while their symbolism of integrity would deter any thoughts of deceit or misinterpretation. A quirky tidbit. Imagine an imperial scholar poring over dusty scrolls, taking a moment to quietly present a small, perfectly calligraphed prayer on silk to a turtle guardian, perhaps asking for clarity of thought or protection against intellectual error. It's a charming image of the personal, almost intimate, spiritual interaction with these powerful symbols. Dear Venerable Guardian, please ensure my footnotes are accurate and my arguments sound, and perhaps prevent any ink spills. Still argue whether the strict adherence to these rituals and ceremonies genuinely fostered a deeper sense of spiritual protection, or if they were primarily tools of imperial propaganda, reinforcing the divine right of the emperor and the states. Control over knowledge. Was it true faith or strategic display? It was likely both, with profound personal belief coexisting within a structured imperial system. Regardless, the Turtle Guardians were not merely static statues. They were active participants in the spiritual and daily life of the Imperial Library. Their presence continually invoked through ritual and ceremony to ensure the timeless beauty and wisdom within remained perpetually protected. The creation of these magnificent guardians involved immense effort in materials and craftsmanship. The colossal stone turtles that stood vigil at the Imperial Library were not simply rough-hewn boulders. They were masterpieces of ancient Chinese sculpture and engineering, requiring centuries of accumulated skill and vast resources. Imagine the process, beginning deep in a mountain quarry. Massive blocks of suitable stone, often granite or a hard, durable marble, had to be extracted. This was a labor-intensive process, involving chisels, wedges, and immense human effort, often using water to split the rock. The sheer scale of the blocks required for these multi-ton turtle statues speaks volumes about the logistical capabilities of the imperial workshops. A mainstream historical fact, the transportation of these colossal stone figures, often weighing many tons, over long distances from quarries to imperial capitals like Chang'an or Luoyang, was a monumental feat of ancient engineering. During winter, water was sometimes poured onto the roads to create ice, allowing the heavy blocks to be slid on sledges, showcasing ingenious solutions to immense logistical challenges. Once in the imperial workshops, skilled sculptors would begin the painstaking work of carving. Using a variety of chisels, hammers, and polishing tools, it would meticulously shape the raw stone into the recognizable form of the turtle, adhering to established artistic conventions. Every scale, every wrinkle, every line would be carefully rendered, conveying the desired sense of ancient wisdom, strength, and longevity. The craftsmanship was precise, embodying the same meticulousness found in the scrolls they guarded. The finishing touches involved polishing the stone to a smooth, sometimes almost reflective surface, and occasionally adding painted details or gilding to enhance their visual impact. The result was not merely a statue, but a powerful, imposing representation of a cosmic guardian, designed to inspire awe and respect in all who entered the library. A quirky tidbit. Imagine the lead sculptor, perhaps after years of working on a single turtle statue, developing a highly personal relationship with the stone. He might whisper encouragements to the emerging form, or even apologize to the stone for a particularly difficult chisel mark. It's a charming thought of the human connection to monumental, slow-paced creation. Forgive me, Venerable One, for this slight chip was merely a test of your eternal patience. Historians still argue whether the immense investment in time and resources for such monumental stone guardians was primarily a display of imperial wealth and power, or if it genuinely reflected a deep spiritual belief in the efficacy of their protective symbolism. Was it about showing off, or truly safeguarding? It was likely a blend, as grand displays often served to reinforce imperial authority, while tapping into profound cultural beliefs. Regardless, monumental materials and meticulous craftsmanship involved in creating the Imperial Library's Turtle Guardians are a testament to the Chinese Empire's unwavering commitment to the protection of knowledge. Manifest and enduring. Stone, the effectiveness of the Turtle Guardians, both practical and symbolic, was often tested by history. This brings us to the challenges to preservation, the countless threats to the Imperial Library and its stone protectors over centuries. Despite the auspicious symbolism, the relentless forces of nature, human conflict, and neglect constantly conspired against the longevity of knowledge. Imagine an imperial librarian's constant anxieties. Beyond the ever-present threat of fire and flood, which the turtles symbolically guarded against, but not always literally prevented, there were other dangers. Insects and rodents could infest scrolls and devour paper. The sheer passage of time itself, with its slow hand of decay, caused fragile materials to crumble. Humidity could foster mold, while extreme dryness could make scrolls brittle. Then there were human threats. Dynastic changes and civil unrest often led to the destruction of imperial libraries. Victorious armies or new regimes might deliberately burn or scatter collections associated with previous rulers as a means of erasing history or consolidating power. Theft of rare or valuable texts was also a constant concern, despite the best efforts of guards and symbolic protectors, a mainstream historical fact. Throughout Chinese history, imperial libraries were repeatedly destroyed and rebuilt, often due to warfare, rebellion, or natural disasters like fire. The burning of books by Emperor Qin Shi Huang in the 3rd century BCE, though perhaps exaggerated, is a famous example of deliberate state-sanctioned destruction of texts, highlighting the vulnerability of knowledge to political whims. The stone turtle guardians themselves were not immune to these challenges. Earthquakes could damage them, and invading armies might deface or destroy them as symbols of a fallen dynasty. Over centuries, weathering, erosion, pollution would slowly degrade their carved surfaces, blurring their once sharp details. Their eternal vigil was often a battle against the elements and the tides of human history. Quirky tidbit. Imagine an imperial librarian, after surviving a minor earthquake, nervously checking on a stone turtle guardian. He might find a new crack in its ancient shell, and with a sigh, wonder if the turtle's spirit was signaling a deeper, more ominous threat to the library, beyond mere structural damage. It's a charming thought of the human tendency to read signs importance into the very physical presence of their protectors. Is that a crack or a warning from the cosmos? Venerable one? Historians still argue whether the repeated destruction and rebuilding of imperial libraries demonstrates the inherent fragility of knowledge in ancient times, or if it highlights the remarkable resilience and cultural imperative to recreate and preserve knowledge despite adversity. Was it a cycle of loss, or a testament to enduring cultural values? It was likely both, a tragic necessity that underscored the profound importance placed on documentation. Regardless, the unwavering presence of the turtle guardians, even as they faced countless challenges, serves as a poignant reminder of the perpetual struggle to preserve knowledge against the relentless forces of decay and destruction. Despite the mastery and innovation in preservation, the story of the Imperial Library and its turtle guardians reveals profound mastery and innovation in Chinese knowledge preservation. While the threats were constant, Chinese developed sophisticated techniques and organizational structures that allowed them to accumulate and pass down an unparalleled literary and historical heritage through millennia. The sheer volume of texts created, copied, and preserved over centuries speaks volumes about their commitment. This required not just dedicated scribes, but advancements in papermaking, a Chinese invention, ink production, and organizational systems for cataloging and retrieval. Their ability to manage and store millions of scrolls and volumes was a marvel of ancient information science. A mainstream historical fact, the Chinese invented paper around the 2nd century CE, a revolutionary development that significantly enhanced their ability to produce, store, and preserve written texts compared to earlier materials like bamboo slips or silk. This invention, combined with the later development of woodblock printing, also Chinese, has fundamentally transformed knowledge dissemination and preservation globally, beyond the physical materials. The Chinese Imperial Libraries developed sophisticated methods of classification and cataloging. Scribes and scholars spent generations compiling vast encyclopedias like the Saikou Quanshu during the Qing dynasty, one of the largest compilation projects in history that summarized, categorized, and preserved knowledge from countless original texts. This wasn't just collecting. It was actively synthesizing and organizing information on an unprecedented scale. Their organizational structure was also innovative. Imperial libraries often had dedicated staff for various tasks: copying, editing, binding, storage, and even overseeing pest control and humidity management. They were early pioneers in integrated knowledge management, adapting to threats with practical, methodical solutions, sometimes working in concert with symbolic protections. A quirky tidbit: imagine a meticulous imperial librarian after perfecting a new method for categorizing scrolls, presenting his system to a stone turtle guardian. He might believe the turtle's wisdom would subtly approve of his organizational genius, or perhaps he'd secretly envy the turtle's impenetrable shell, wishing his scrolls could be so naturally resilient to decay and disorder. Ah, venerable one, if only my cataloging system was as eternal as your magnificent shell. Historians still argue whether the immense scale of Chinese knowledge preservation and compilation was primarily driven by the bureaucratic needs of a centralized empire managing records for governance, or by a deep cultural and philosophical reverence for learning and history. Was it practical necessity or a love of wisdom? It was likely a reinforcing loop, with the practical benefits of centralized knowledge solidifying the cultural imperative to preserve it. Regardless, the enduring existence of so much ancient Chinese literature and history is a testament to the mastery and innovation of those who guarded and nurtured the Imperial Library, far beyond mere symbolic protection. Despite the mastery and innovation in preservation, the fate of the Imperial Library and its turtle guardians was inextricably linked to the unpredictable currents of history. This leads us to the decline. Dynastic shifts, as the rise and fall of imperial dynasties often brought periods of destruction and rebuilding for these venerable institutions, impacting the very symbolism they embodied. Imagine the precariousness of knowledge in an era of constant political upheaval. When a dynasty fell, particularly through rebellion or conquest, its symbols, records, and even its grand institutions like the Imperial Library were often targeted. The new ruling power might burn or scatter the collections of its predecessors, as a means of erasing their legitimacy or controlling the historical narrative. Libraries could also become collateral damage in sieges or urban warfare, a mainstream historical fact throughout China's long history. Imperial libraries experienced cycles of destruction and rebuilding. Notable examples include the burning of books during the Qin dynasty, the sacking of Han Dynasty libraries during rebellions, and the destruction of collections during the fall of the Tang Dynasty. Each dynastic change brought the risk of immense loss, making the task of knowledge preservation a continuous, heroic struggle. The stone turtle guardians themselves, though symbols of longevity, were vulnerable to these shifts. As potent symbols of imperial authority, they might be defaced, toppled, or even deliberately destroyed by conquering forces seeking to eradicate the iconography of the previous regime. Their enduring presence was a testament to survival, but often marked by the scars of history during periods of political instability. Resources for maintaining the library could dwindle. Scribes might disperse, buildings fall into disrepair, and collections suffer from neglect, dampness, or insect infestations. The decline wasn't always a dramatic blaze. Sometimes it was a slow, insidious erosion of knowledge through lack of care. A quirky tidbit: imagine a weary, disheveled imperial librarian during a dynastic transition trying to quickly smuggle out a few precious scrolls hidden beneath his robes, desperately trying to save what he could from the impending chaos or destruction. He might cast a desperate, pleading glance at a stone turtle guardian, wishing its symbolic protection could physically shield the texts from human folly. Please, venerable one, guard these last few histories from the barbarians. Historians still argue whether the repeated destruction of imperial libraries throughout Chinese history represents a fundamental flaw in their system of knowledge preservation, or if it simply underscores the brutal realities of ancient politics where the control of information was paramount. Did the cycles of loss diminish the cultural value of the library, or did they reinforce the imperative to constantly rebuild and preserve? It was likely a complex and tragic reality, demonstrating both the fragility of knowledge and the enduring human desire to restore it. Regardless, the long lifespan of the Imperial Library's turtle guardians, often outlasting the dynasties they served, stands as a poignant symbol of resilience amidst the constant flux of imperial power. Despite the repeated cycles of destruction and rebuilding, the symbolism and significance of the Imperial Library and its turtle guardians left an enduring mark, forming a profound legacy, enduring cultural impact. The ancient Chinese reverence for knowledge, embodied by these institutions and their protectors, continues to resonate in Chinese, Austrola, and even global perspectives on libraries today. Imagine strolling through a modern Chinese city or visiting a museum. You might still encounter stylized depictions of turtles carrying stone tablets, symbols of historical weight and longevity. The idea of the turtle as a bringer of stability, wisdom, and good fortune remains deeply ingrained in folklore, art, and even feng shui practices. The ancient guardians have transcended their original physical roles too. It's become timeless cultural archetypes. A mainstream historical fact, the tradition of placing stone Bixie turtle steles at significant historical sites, such as imperial tombs and temples, continued for many centuries after the decline of the Central Imperial Library system. Many examples, some centuries old, can still be found today across China, serving as tangible reminders of the turtle's enduring symbolic power for guarding history and memory beyond the visible symbols. The Chinese cultural emphasis on scholarship, historical record-keeping, and the reverence for written knowledge owes a significant debt to the Imperial Library tradition. The pursuit of learning, the importance of passing down classical texts, and the value placed on intellectual heritage have been continuous threads throughout Chinese civilization. Fostered by institutions like the Imperial Library, the very concept of a national library or a repository of national memory in any country today echoes the ambition and purpose of these ancient Chinese institutions. They set a precedent for the state's responsibility in collecting, preserving, and making accessible the collective wisdom of a civilization. A quirky tidbit: imagine a modern Chinese librarian, perhaps with a subtle turtle charm on their keychain, feeling a quiet, unspoken connection to the ancient imperial librarians and their stone guardians. They might smile, knowing that their task of protecting books, albeit with modern technology, is a continuation of a sacred duty performed for millennia. My ancestors had stone turtles. I have fire alarms and digital archives. The spirit is the same. Historians still argue whether the enduring cultural impact of these symbols is primarily a result of top-down imperial propaganda that successfully embedded these values, or if it stems from a more organic, deeply rooted philosophical belief within Chinese society. Did the state enforce the reverence, or did it simply reflect it? It was likely a reinforcing loop, where state patronage solidified existing beliefs. Regardless, the legacy of the Chinese Imperial Library and its wise, patient turtle guardians endures far beyond the collapse of any single dynasty. They stand as a timeless testament to the power of wisdom, the fragility of knowledge, and the enduring human spirit that seeks to preserve it for all time. As our incredible journey through the Achaemenid Empire's communication network draws to a close, it's time to reflect on the ultimate meaning of the Persian postman's extraordinary feats. We've seen the sheer scale of his endurance, the ingenious system that supported him, and the profound impact he had on a vast empire. Now, as the echoes of his pounding footsteps fade into the stillness of your night, let's consider his enduring legacy, the power of human spirit, the story of the Persian postman. Running 150 miles without socks across unforgiving terrain isn't just about ancient logistics or imperial power. It's about what the human body and mind are capable of when pushed to their limits, driven by purpose and discipline. It speaks to a raw, primal form of excellence, achieved through sheer grit and resilience. In an age before specialized equipment or advanced sports science, these individuals embodied peak human performance. Think about the mental fortitude required, the loneliness of the long road, the physical pain, the constant threat from nature and bandits, the unwavering focus on the message. These were not just physical challenges, but profound tests of character. The postman's dedication to his appointed rounds wasn't merely a job, it was a deeply ingrained sense of duty, commitment to a cause larger than himself, a mainstream historical fact. The concept of physical and moral excellence, rete in Greek, was valued in many ancient societies. The Persian couriers, with their blend of physical prowess and unwavering loyalty, would have been seen as embodying these virtues, serving as a powerful example of human capacity and dedication within their culture. This story serves as a powerful reminder that while technology can accelerate and amplify human endeavors, it cannot replace the fundamental drive and resilience of the individual. Our modern world thrives on instant communication, but it's built on the foundations laid by those who achieve the impossible with nothing but their own bodies and an iron will. The spirit of the ultramarathoner, the relentless explorer, the dedicated public servant, it all echoes in the legend of the Persian postman. A quirky tidbit. Imagine trying to convince a modern person to try a Persian postman. Fitness challenge. Alright, no shoes, no socks, 150 miles across a desert. Deliver this scroll. Ready, go? They'd probably just stare at you bewildered and call for help. It highlights how radically different our concept of effort and endurance has become, making the ancient feat even more impressive. Historians still argue whether the individual experiences of these couriers were primarily defined by hardship and suffering, or if they derived a profound sense of purpose and pride from their vital role in sustaining such a vast empire. Was it a grueling burden or a glorious calling? It was likely a mixture, but their enduring legacy points to a deep wellspring of human spirit. Regardless, the Persian postman, running his 150 miles without socks, stands as a timeless symbol of what humans can achieve through discipline, dedication, and an unshakable will to deliver. His footsteps, though silent now, echo across time, reminding us of the extraordinary power of the human spirit. As the last whisper of ancient wisdom settles, and the image of those stoic turtle guardians fades into the quiet hum of your own room, we bring our journey to a reflective close. We've explored the profound reasons why the Chinese Imperial Library was guarded by turtles, marveling at a blend of deep cosmology, practical necessity, and unwavering imperial vision. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, let the enduring power of patience and knowledge embodied by these silent protectors bring a timeless calm to your mind. You can almost feel the weight of millennia of scrolls, the wisdom of sages, the meticulous brushstrokes of scribes, all entrusted to the unblinking gaze of these stone creatures. They were not just statues. They were manifestations of a deeply held belief that knowledge, like the turtle, must be stable, enduring, and protected from the fleeting chaos of the world. Their vigilance against fire and flood, against theft and corruption, was a testament to the Chinese Empire's understanding that true power lay not just in armies, but in the accumulated wisdom of its past. The very air around you, now still and serene, seems to hold the quiet wisdom of those ancient libraries. The books on your shelves, the digital information at your fingertips, they are direct descendants of those precious scrolls, preserved and passed down through generations. They whisper a story of humanity's continuous quest for understanding, a journey safeguarded by the dedication of countless individuals, and, symbolically, by the enduring spirit of the turtle. Remember the paradox, a creature of slow movement, chosen to guard the swift flow of intellectual progress. It reminds us that profound stability can enable radical advancement. The turtle's longevity embodies the very ambition of the Imperial Library itself, to create a repository of knowledge that would last for eternity, outliving dynasties and transcending the temporary. So as you draw your blankets closer, Feel the comforting stillness of your room and let your own modern comforts settle around you. Spare a quiet thought for those ancient guardians, their timeless vigil for knowledge. Their symbolic power that transcended the physical reminds us that the quest for wisdom is an eternal human endeavor. It is a legacy carried forward, protected and cherished, ensuring that the light of learning, like the steady, patient turtle, continues its long, deliberate journey through time. Now dim the lights. We turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Sweet dreams.